Well, hello everybody. It is Tuesday and you're in the kitchen cooking with Evie. So, today we're going to be making a delicious chicken soup. What was the inspiration for this? Well, I am homesick and I just thought I wanted some comfort food, and chicken soup when you're not feeling well always sounds so good. So you might hear I'm a little bit congested here, but bear with me. Today we're going to be making actually a non-gluten chicken noodle soup. And the way we're going to do this is I'm going to be adding in, it's a new item that I've tried, and it's angel hair pasta made from hearts of palm. So that's going to go into our dish. But what's nice about this dish, this recipe, is I make it with leftover chicken. So I want to show you how I make what I call velvet chicken. And it's quick and easy to do, and you'll have chicken for another dish, but then you also have chicken left over to make your soup. So let me show you what I've got in progress here, because I've already cooked up my chicken, pre-cooked it. Yesterday, what I did was I started my velvet chicken. And how do you do that? Well, you put on a pot of water on the stove with enough water to cover your chicken. You put the chicken in, you add in vegetables. So what did I add in? I added in some onions, I added in some carrots, some celery, and then I made a bundle of fresh thyme and chives, and I think that was it. You can put a bay leaf in there as well. Any kind of herbs or seasonings that you like. I put in 10 peppercorns, so the balls unground. I put that in, and then I let the pot come to a boil. And after it comes to a boil, I let it come to put it on a simmer for about 20 minutes. After 20 minutes, I turned the stove off and I let the pot sit unopened for about 3 hours. So what happens is it starts the chicken cooking then, and then it just poaches. And I just reheated the broth again today. And I actually like to make mine in my double colander here, which has the strainer inside, because it makes it very easy for me then to separate the veggies that I added from the broth. So let me just set this aside here. And you'll see here I have some nice steaming broth. Smells so good. Now, chicken soup. I was saying, I wasn't feeling well, so I decided to make some chicken soup. Chicken soup is actually very good for us. It has a lot of healing qualities to it. The chicken that's in it, the protein is good for healing, but it's also the other vegetables that you add into it, the vitamins, the minerals, but also the liquids, which helps, cut through any congestion that you might have. So think about chicken soup next time you're not feeling well. So we have the broth now. I seasoned it with a little bit of salt after cooking the chicken. And now what I want to do is show you how I remove the meat from the bone. So let me do this. Chicken is a little bit warm, so I'm going to grab a fork. To help me pick it up. Now, as I said, the onions and the carrots and the celery and everything that I added in is now sitting on the bottom of my pot here. If you don't have a colander to put it in, don't worry. You can just lift it out and you can pour your broth through a sieve to remove all of the vegetables that are there. So I'm just going to take the skin off at this point. when you poach a chicken, the skin isn't very appealing. So I'm just going to remove it with this fork, as I'm doing right here. Just take that off. All right, this is a smaller chicken that I have. It came from a CSA that I belong to for meats. I get my grass-fed beef and free-range chickens from this, from Butcher Block. All right. Flip this guy over. So now it is with the breast side up, and I'm going to take that skin off right like that, just like so. All right. Now, you can discard this skin, or I'm going to put it back with the veggies that I had cooking, because I'll show you a different use for those things in a little bit. Now, so we have the chicken here now. Let's see, so a little bit more skin, but I'm going to take off. Now, you can just use your fingers to pull this off, or if you'd like, I'll show you how I go about deboning a chicken. This is so soft that you'll be able to see. Let me tip this down a little bit so you can see a little bit better what's going on. All right, there we go. I know I cut myself off, but don't worry about it. All right, so you can see here how I now have these, the legs are practically falling off, but you know, to find the joint, just wiggle it and you'll see where the pivot point is. And if you go in with your knife, you can just cut down and remove that joint. Just coming off all by itself. All right, so I now have my legs and thighs separate. I'm going to save those for another recipe. I'm going to use the breast meat for my chicken soup. So what I want to do is I tend to just kind of cut down the middle and try to find the bone that's there. And what I want to do is I'll just cut down along the side of that bone, just following the edges of it. And you'll see that I was able to just remove all the meat that was on that side. And I'm going to just do the same on the other side. The meat is so soft and tender that it's just falling apart on its own. All right, and that's what I'm going to be using now for my soup, these 2 chicken breasts. All right, now, if you'd like, you can wait till this cools more and just go through with your fingers and pick out the meat that's on there. But for now, we're just going to go with the 2 breasts that I removed. All right, so let's see. So let me do this now. I'm going to remove the carcass. I'm going to put it back in, because what I might do is later on, with the leftover broth that I have, because I have a lot of broth in there, I'm going to make it into a bone broth, and I'm going to just keep cooking it and cooking it until it leaches some of the minerals from the bones. And I'll add a little bit of apple cider vinegar to that, which helps break down the bones a little bit more. I'll probably let it cook on low for several hours. Sometimes I'll do it overnight if I'm doing it in a slow cooker. So now we have our 2 breasts here. All right, and you can either cut the chicken into cubes, as I'm showing here, or you can take your fork and just shred the meat. It's that tender. Depending on how you like it. That's the nice thing about making your own recipe, right? You can make it the way you like it. Some people like chunky soups. Others just like them, it's shredded. So, in the interest of time, I'm just going to kind of do a little bit of both. Chunky shred. All right. And I'm going to now I'm going to add to a separate pot. Excuse me for that. So I'm going to take out probably about 5 or 6 cups of liquid and transfer it so that I can use that for my soup. So let me just do that now. All right. So I have about 6 cups of broth now that I added to my second pot here, and I'm going to add my chicken back. You know, I'm going to wait on the chicken because the chicken is cooked. I don't need to add it back in. But what I do need is to decide what vegetables I want to add to my soup. I'm going to turn the heat on underneath that soup so it gets starting to heat up and come back to a boil. And I'm going to add in some carrots. I'm going to add in some carrots. I don't have any celery, which is key to making your chicken soup. But what I do have is I dehydrated some celery that I grew last year in the garden, and I'm going to add that into my broth. In fact, I'm going to do that right now. But if you're using fresh celery, that's even better. I would say add in 2, maybe 3 stalks of that. And of course, carrots are wonderful. So I'm going to add in 2 carrot sticks. And this is a biggie, again for my CSA. So I'm going to cut it into smaller pieces. I actually cut this into quarters. I'm going to show you how I did that. So I cut it like so, can you see? In half, and then in half again. And I'm going to cut that into, about 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch slices. All right. Let's see if I can get this to show a little bit more of the Well, I'm not sure if that helped at all. All right. So, this part of the carrot's not as thick, so I'm just going to slice it down in half. And again, slice it into those 1/4 inch slices. And the best part is, I can just add this now into my broth and let that simmer. I'm going to let it simmer for about an hour until everything is nice and soft. What I will do is probably in the last few minutes, last 15 minutes, I'm going to add back the chicken into the broth and let that heat up again. But because the chicken is already cooked, I don't need to add it in. All right. So I have my carrots here, and I'm just going to add that into the pot. It's coming up to a simmer right now. All right, that's good. Now, so I have my celery, I have my carrots. Another important ingredient is the onion. So I'm going to add in an onion. sometimes the paper and the onion want to stay there. It makes it very difficult to get off. What I do in that case is I'll chop the onion in half. I took the tip off already. And then I'll just kind of pull at the outer layer. This one is particularly stubborn. There we go. There we go. Come on. Let's pull at that outer layer. There we go. See, I left the layer there, but the paper is now off. Okay, do that with the other one. And my eyes are watering. Well, that's good for digestion, right? Get all the fluids going. All right. So, I'm going to roughly chop the onion. I don't have to do it super fine. All right. Ooh, my eyes are watering. Well, I can hear the soup boiling, so let me go turn that down because I want to have it at a simmer. I don't want it a rolling boil. There we go. All right. And let me just give my onion a finish chop. All right. All right. So we have our onion now that we are going to add in. All right. Now, other things that you could add in. Remember, the more vegetables you add in, the healthier it is for you. Why? Because each vegetable has its own nutrient profile that is additive. So, for instance, we now have the carrots that are in there, the celery, and the onion. Oh, I did add in garlic when I was cooking the chicken. So there was a little bit of garlic in there, which again is also very good if you have a cold. So there's immune boosting and protective elements to that garlic. So I added in some garlic as well. What else could you add? I had a turnip. Can't say it. A turnip in the refrigerator. I have some green beans as well. Scallions, you could add that in. You could even add broccoli. And we know cruciferous vegetables are some of the most nutrient-dense vegetables that we can be eating, which means it has the most nutrition for us with the least amount of calories. So I think what I will do right now is, let me peel this turnip. I actually looked up beforehand whether or not you can eat a turnip unpeeled. And what I've discovered is, yes, you can eat a turnip unpeeled, but the outer layer tends to have a little bit of bitterness in it, and the larger the turnip is, the more likely that is to be. So I figured I'm going to peel my turnip. Though it does remove that beautiful purple color, which, as we know, indicates that there's some healthy nutrients in there. So what I might do is add that back into the scraps when I'm making my bone broth. Remember I mentioned that I was going to re-cook that carcass in the remaining broth to make bone broth. All right. Turnip is sticky. Okay. So I just cut it down. I cut it in half, and then I cut it into kind of thick French fry shapes. And now I'm turning it 90 degrees, and I'm just going to cut it into cubes and add that into my broth, which is simmering. I'm going to turn it down a little bit because it's getting a little bit too much of a rolling boil. Add this in. All right. And I'm just going to add a couple of green onions. Add a little bit of color as well. I'll add some of the greens in. All right. And I'm going to add a few of my green beans in as well. Why not? Just going to cut off those ends. And I'm going to just roughly cut them into bite-sized pieces because I don't think it's good to have them too big. It makes it difficult to, there you go. It makes it difficult to eat if you have to, if the pieces are too big. All right. Now, I'm just going to take a quick taste to see if the soup needs some salt. Yes, I'm going to add some salt to that. Definitely need some. I didn't add very much. I purposely don't add a lot of salt at the beginning because it's always easier to add than subtract the salt. So I'm adding in about 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt to my soup here. All right. Let's see. Let me grab my mitts here so I don't hurt myself, and I will show you what we are cooking up here. All right. So here we have it. Oh, it's always so hard to see. All right. Much easier. What I do is I'll ladle some out to a bowl so you can see. But we're going to let this cook. As I said, we're going to let this simmer for about an hour on the stove, or until the vegetables are soft enough to your liking. So let me grab a little bit. All right, let's see if that's easier to show. It's not as easy. Not as easy as I had hoped. Here we go. There we go. Now, what I'm going to do is add in a little bit of that chicken, right? Now, I did add in some seasonings earlier, but you may decide that maybe you want to add in a little bit of thyme. I always love additional seasonings. If you like cumin, you could add in cumin too. It's a little bit of a different flavor. So I might add in a pinch of thyme. I've got about a teaspoon's worth in there, just to add a little bit of flavor. All right, and there you have it. All right, well, I'm going to let this cook along, and Oh, what did I forget? Remember I said this was a gluten-free chicken noodle soup? Well, let's not forget to add in the noodles. And how do we do that? These noodles, they just really need to be heated up. They don't need to be boiled for a long period of time, but they do need to be rinsed. So, remove my there, and just let me show you what these look like. They look just like noodles. There you go. All right, that one you can see. And I'm just going to rinse these through. Now, other things that you could add to your soup. Spinach, very good. Arugula is another good one. Kale is good. I like to shred up the kale because it's a firmer leaf. So I like to put it in smaller, tinier pieces, tinier bites. All right. So I had about 1 can of it's called palmini noodles. And I'm going to add that into our soup. I'm going to let that, you could add it later on too, but for the purpose of the demonstration, let's do this again. And I'll grab out another bowl so that we can make it up again. Let's try that again. All right. We taste whether I salted it enough. Oh yeah. Oh, that's good. Yum, yum, yum. Okay. And there you have it. So now you can see the noodles in there, right? All good. Well, I'm going to go enjoy this while hopefully you start working on your chicken noodle soup today. All right? Till next week, hope you stay well, eat healthy. If you have any ideas of recipes you'd like to see, know that everything that I do is anti-inflammatory. I can take a recipe and make it more anti-inflammatory, healthier for you. If you're looking for that, by all means, contact me. Take a look at my website, eveyschweig.com, where you'll find all of the recipes that I make during my Cooking with Evey shows. All right, I will see you next week. Bye-bye for now.